They told me the night shift at the all-night off I-70 would be easy. Mop the floor, scan smokes, smile at truckers. They didn't mention the rules taped under the counter, or why the bell above the glass door sometimes rings when nobody walks. I started 3 nights after Christmas. Flat Kansas winter, the kind that makes the sky feel like a lid on a pot. The exit sign 239 was a green blade in the dark. The station's neon open buzzed like a trapped fly. Inside, it smelled like coffee, syrup, and motor oil, and the cooler hummed like a deep throat clearing dot. Denise, the evening cashier, finished counting her drawer, pushed me a foam cup of coffee, and leaned in like someone about to tell a rumor. "You didn't want. Read these," she said, sliding a yellowed index card from beneath the lottery display. "Don't laugh, don't argue, and don't ask me where they came from." There were 10 rules. If the lights brown out between 2:13 and 2:16 a.m., do not touch the breakers. Count to 60, eyes on the floor. If the door chime rings, but you see no one, say "Evening, Mike," and don't look at the convex mirror. Never let anyone pay cash with coins dated later than this year. If they try, hand the coins back and say, "Card only after midnight." If Channel 19 crackles on the radio and you can't see a truck on the lot, turn the volume to 3 and do not answer. If a child in a hoodie asks for the restroom and you do not see a parent, tell them the restroom is out of order. Send them back outside with a free candy bar. If a man in a hunting cap asks for the wake-up blend, pour decaf, he'll tip. Don't count it until dawn. Don't clean the mop sink after 3:07 a.m. The water turns the wrong way. If someone knocks on the glass after you lock the doors at 2:59, do not unlock for the first 4 knocks. If there's a 5th, hide behind the counter and breathe through your mouth. If you see yourself in the freezer glass, call the sheriff. Don't open the door. At 4:40 a.m., stretch your hands to the ceiling and say, "Shift change." Even if you're alone, "Who's Mike?" I asked. Denise didn't blink. "Someone who left." She tugged on her coat, keys jangling. If the 5th knock comes, crouch and breathe through your mouth. You'll know why. Then she was gone, taillights bleached by the wet road. I worked alone after midnight. The place turned, aquarium fluorescents buzzing. The parking lot, a black ocean. Flyers curled on the community corkboard. A missing tabby, a church bake sale. A photo of a high schooler with the word "missing" typed above her grin. Her name was Kayla. I avoided the smile. At 1:23 a.m. A convoy of trucks rolled through like slow thunder. My drawer filled with dollars soft as skin. A guy with a St. Louis cap bought beef jerky and asked if the snow would stick. "Not tonight," I said, because that's what the sky looked like. A lid that promised nothing at 2:11. The radio on the back shelf clicked by itself. Old CB set, nobody used anymore. Channel 19 hissed, a drag of breath. I walked over, saw. The lot through the slats of the Venetian blinds empty. Rule 4, Volume 2-3. Do not answer. I turned it down with 2 fingers, like it might bite. The hiss settled into a whisper shaped like words I didn't know. I left it alone. 2:13 a.m. The lights browned. They didn't flicker. They dimmed like the building took a long breath in. I felt the hair rise on my arms. I stared at the floor and started counting, heart keeping lousy time. At 60, the fluorescence returned, a flat slap to the eyes. The door chime rang. I looked up too fast. No one. Dark glass. My face reflected there, too pale, but me. The convex mirror over the coffee urns showed the whole room shrinking into a fisheye. Rule 2, Evening Mike, I said, voice like paper. The back of my neck wanted to look at the mirror. I didn't. Something tapped the glass, not a hand. More like a coin flipped against it. Just wind, I told myself. Just the building thinking. At 2:25, a state trooper rolled in. Trooper Carter 50, jaw like a cinder block, eyes that could flip a car around. He looked tired in a way sleep couldn't fix. You, the new one, he said. Mara, I said. First week. Keep the door locked at 3, he said, which I already knew. He bought coffee, black as tire rubber, and a donut shaped like a life buoy. If you hear anything you don't like, call in. Dispatch is slow tonight, dear strikes, on 24. Ever hear a 5th knock? I said, casual like asking about the weather. He paused. The lights made his badge a dull star. Don't answer it, he said finally. Ever. Then he left. Taillights bleeding red. 2:59 a.m. I locked the glass doors. The key turned smooth as a river stone. Outside, the lot was empty but full of shapes, the way absence can be heavy. The road hissed with faraway semis. Somewhere, a train wailed like something hurt and proud of it. The first knock came at exactly 3:01. I knew because I was watching. The timestamp on the security monitor. The cameras showed for angles, pump islands, door, Isle of Chips, cooler glass. This knock was gentle, old-fashioned, like someone with manners. I didn't move. Second knock. A little closer to my ear. Somehow, like it learned. Third knock. The glass didn't shake. The sound was inside the room of the night. My nose itched. I wouldn't scratch it. Fourth knock. Something in my sinus filled with cold river water, the kind that burns. I felt a strange urge to smile. I kept my mouth neutral. Then, silence. My ribs counted time. No 5th knock. When the clock turned 3:03, the radio hissed again. Ma, it said, catching my name like a fishhook. Not a voice I knew. A shape of a voice. I turned the dial down to 3 again with 2 fingers. The urge to turn it up was as strong as the urge to peek into a box marked "Do Not Dot" a pickup. Rolled in a 310, an old Ford with a hunting rack. The man who came in wore a camo cap and a smile too wide for 3 a.m. wake-up blend. He said, winking. Big night, Rule 6. I poured decaf. He didn't watch. He tipped a fat handful of coins. The dates were all wrong. 2026. 2029. I smiled like it didn't matter and slid the cup toward him. Card only after midnight. I said lightly and handed the coins back. He blinked like a deer in headlights, then nodded, card out. When he left, the pickup's reverse. Lights were greenish, not white. I stared until they turned normal and drove away. At 3:17, the chime rang again with nobody there, and I said, "Evening, Mike," without thinking. I started to feel like the rules were the only scaffolding holding the building up, like if I broke one, the roof would lift off and the whole sky would suck me like a straw. That was when I saw the freezer glass. My reflection blinked. Wrong dot, not much, just a beat too slow. I froze, heart thumping my ribs like a fist at a door. Rule 9, call the sheriff. Don't open the door. I picked up the phone, fingers sweaty. Trooper Carter. My voice whispered. This is Mara at the all-night. Freezer glass is wrong. He didn't ask me to explain. Stay away from the glass, he said. I'm 10 out. I stayed where I was and breathed through my mouth because suddenly the air smelled like old pennies, like the bottom of a fountain. I watched myself in the freezer. I kept very still. She swayed slightly, drunk on a boat. An idea crept in. If I opened that door, she'd be more solid than me. The lights browned at 3:23. I counted 60. Eyes on the floor, and felt the empty store breathing like an animal asleep. When full light returned, my reflection was normal, but I still didn't trust it. Headlights smeared the glass. Carter came in, checked the freezer, checked the cameras, drank the coffee I handed him. His hands were shaking too, like he'd run. "You did right," he said. "If anything else turns weird, you call me," I almost said. "We're already there," but swallowed it. He left. 3:41 a.m. A girl in a grey county issue hoodie walked up to the locked door. She was maybe 17. The hoodie sleeves were too long. She kept her head down, hair across her face. She cupped her hands to the glass, mouthing something. Rule 5. If a child in a hoodie asks for the restroom and you don't see a parent. I looked beyond her empty lot. No car. The cameras were pure static for a second, just a blink, like an eye. She knocked once, not like the knocks. "Human, please," she mouthed. "Restroom." I held up both hands. I mouthed out of order. My throat burned. I grabbed a king-size bar from the rack, walked toward the door, and placed it on the doormat. I did not unlock it. I did not look too closely at her eyes. Something like gratitude flickered across whatever she wore for a face. She picked up the candy and walked out of the yellow cone of light into the blue-black. I watched the cameras. No car, no footprints. Sometimes the cold keeps secrets. At 3:55, a paper slipped under the door like a white fish. No wind, just appeared. I crouched. A receipt, not ours. Different logo, different font. It said SHF TCH NG 440 SAIT. Open 259 equals not open. Kayla says thank you. Count 5 knocks, with mouth closed. My mouth went dry. Kayla was the girl on the corkboard, missing since September. I wanted to tear the paper up. I slid it under the counter instead, like there was any safe place left. At exactly 4:01 a.m. The knocks began again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one learned me a little better, like it adjusted to the rhythm of my heart. The 5th came late, like a joke told in a mean bar. I dropped behind the counter, knees hard on tile. Remembered the last rule of the knocks. Breathe through your mouth on the 5th, so it can't learn your name from the steam of your breath. Denise's words returned like a bad song. You'll know why. I tried to breathe through my mouth, but panic clenched everything to a fist. The 5th knock crawled into my jaw. It wasn't a sound anymore. It was a pressure, a suggestion. It said my name, but not with letters more like it. Knew the pattern of me, and wanted to finish the drawing. Tears came without asking. I pressed my tongue to the back of my teeth and forced air out. Slow, mouth only. The pressure eased, slightly, like a hand pulling away from a hot stove. I stared at the bottom of the counter, where somebody had scratched lines in the woodlong. A go for little cuts, one big one. I traced them with my finger until my hands stopped shaking. The radio popped with a voice too bright. Shift change in 39. It chirped cheerfully, like an infomercial. I turned the dial down to 3. It still bled sound, like a wound under a bandage. For 10 a.m., a delivery truck pulled in, white box, no logo. A guy got out wearing the wrong uniform, like he'd mashed up ups and the marching band. He waved at the camera. then stood perfectly still for 30 seconds. The cameras fuzzed, then cleared, and he was gone. The back door stayed closed. I checked it anyway. Locked, thank God. The glass door woofed, not opened, not knocked like something exhaled against it. The security camera on the door flicked. To snow, then to my face, then to a face too close to be on the outside. I called Carter again. "We're it for weirds," I said, trying to make humor a bridge over a hole. He said he was near. I heard his siren, faint as a mosquito. 4:26 a.m. The freezer glass showed me again, but this time my reflection's lips moved out of time. She mouthed, "Don't." I froze. The urge to open the door and let her out it was so strong, like a friendship, offered too fast. I took the mop handle and wedged it through the freezer latch. "Not tonight," I told the air, "not me." 4:40 a.m. hit like a finish line. I stood in the center aisle between Doritos and windshield wiper fluid, and I stretched my hands to the stained ceiling tiles and said, "Shift change." Nothing moved. Then the store exhaled again, but warm this time, like somebody with a human chest. The fluorescent lights softened, barely. The radio went to dead air. Headlights cut the lot. Not Carter, a silver Corolla. Denise, she was early. She never came early. She hustled in, eyes on my face, like she was counting bruises. "You okay? Mostly," I said. "What's Rule 11? "Get breakfast at the diner," she said, and let out a breath that was half laugh, half broken. "You did it. You made it through a fifth." "It didn't come in," I said. "It never does," she said. "It just takes some people with it anyway." We counted the drawer together. The coins the hunter tried to tip me were back on the counter somehow, even though I'd returned them. I slid them into a Ziploc and wrote, "Do not spend." Denise nodded like a priest. Trooper Carter came in, hat in his hands. He looked like a man who'd run a long way and found the fire still burning. "All good?" he asked. "Good as it gets," I said. He stared past me at the corkboard. Kayla's flied smile was still there, but someone had drawn a little crown over her head. Not a prank crown, a careful crown, as if crowning a saint. "Did you do that?" he asked. "No," I said. "She left me a note." Carter's jaw worked. "They put her name on a bench by the river," he said. "Parents didn't take it down." "Maybe don't," I said. "She's still around, in the kind of way we can't tidy up." He nodded once, like a promise. "If you hear a sixth, knock," he said. "Leave. Don't look back." There isn't a rule for that, because no one writes rules for run. I walked out into a sky like a bruise healing purple, then grey, then a shy blue. The diner sign across the highway flickered on one bulb at a time, like an old hand flexing. Trucks rolled by, men inside them with coffee hot enough to hurt. The bench by the river would be white with frost. Somewhere, a girl in a grey hoodie would tuck a candy bar into her pocket and walk a road we didn't have maps for. When I came back that night, I taped a fresh copy of the rules under the counter. I added something in black Sharpie. "When the fifth knock comes, breathe like you're blowing out candles for a friend you miss. You're not alone." I worked the night shift for 3 months. The fifth knock came twice more. It learned slower each time, or I stopped giving it answers. On my last night before I moved to Denver, I stood in the aisle and stretched my hands to the ceiling at 4:40 and said, "Shift change." And I swear I heard someone say it back, a shadow voice timed exactly to mine. The radio was quiet. The freezer glass showed only me. The door chime stayed polite. The coins in the Ziploc didn't move. But at 2:13, The lights browned just a little, like the store winked, and I winked back, because you can be scared and still be grateful. I left. The rules for whoever came next. Under them, I wedged the strange receipt. I circled one line, count 5 knocks with mouth closed, and on the margin, I wrote Kayla's name, not in big letters, but steady ones. A way of saying, we don't forget the people the road tries to take. On I-70, the morning sun bleached the exit signs to ghost green. In my rear view, exit 239 shrank to a dot, and then to nothing. I still breathe through my mouth when someone knocks after dark. Sometimes the air tastes like pennies. Sometimes it tastes like sugar. I take both as a sign. I'm still here.